Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Brighton podcast. I am here with Blessings Chibamba, my good friend, or actually Bless. I've been listening to the pods from last week and you've been mentioning me a couple times and not valuing my opinion, so I think we'll start with some beef between us. And the beef will carry on during this pod, I'm sure, because we disagree on a couple of things. But yeah, what have you got to say for yourself?
What an introduction.
Yeah, too right.
Yeah, straight on it.
Completely forgot to mention it on yesterday's pod, but yeah, you just one of the points that I heard you say last week is, yeah, but what does he know? Or yeah, but forget what he says about me. That's unbelievable from you. And I've just thought,
right, you've taken that a little bit out of context, and I think we need to give the listeners some context. So, Simon Adingra has been on great form, I must say, and Jamie's been calling for Hertzler to start him, and it's clear that Hertzler listens to the podcast because the weekend
I got my wish.
Simon Adingra starting in the right wing position, and Yankuba Minteh was on the bench. So my thoughts were, I say my thoughts, my opinions are that if you're going to play Adingra, you probably need to just play him off the left. He's ineffective from the right. Therefore, we need to keep Yankuba Minteh playing. You're obviously not going to drop Batoma from the left as well. So it looks like Simon Adingra should be on the bench. But Jamie thinks otherwise.
Hey, I just want to say it's not only me that thought otherwise and that's been calling for it. Hertzler clearly felt what I was seeing and thought, you know what, Adingra deserves a start because Minteh, the last couple of weeks, has been stinking up the gaff, and Adingra got his start. And then he proceeded to stink up the gaff. So that is a tough one. I'm having to eat some humble pie today because that is peak. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough
his best performance, Bless, was it?
Yeah, it was a tough one for him because I think, like we've all said, he's a brilliant player. He's ceiling and what he's going to do in the game is high level. However, off that right hand side, it just does not work. He just struggles with like the momentum of what's going to happen in terms of when the pass is going to get slipped through. Off the left hand side, it seems pretty seamless. I was surprised that even mid game they didn't just swap over for a little bit and just mix it up. But what are your thoughts overall?
Yeah, well, I disagree to one of your points. I think on the right he can work. I think I'm going to back him. Still, I'm going to back him until I die.
Even I love today.
This man. I think he just had today, or not today, it was Sunday.
On the weekend.
He had a couple of loose touches and he just didn't look his usual self. There was no burst of pace. He didn't seem like he could take on Alex Moreno. Don't know why. But yeah, it just didn't all go for him. He kept on losing the ball, kept on getting tackled, was basically null and voided throughout the whole game. So yeah, wasn't a great game, but I still think he probably won't start next week, but I still think he should carry on starting because Minteh, when he came on, didn't do much either. I mean, maybe it was just a masterclass from Alex Moreno and then Olaranya in the second half that nullified these people.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously we're having this going on, and then my guy comes on, Minteh. Yeah, he's not doing it. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what did either of them do.
I do remember a Minteh cross that was whipped into the back seat, but nobody actually made that run. So
yeah, I mean, I've got the Adingra stats here. Accurate crosses, 0 for 5. Successful dribbles, 0 for 2. Tackles 1 out of 2, which isn't bad. Ground duels 1, 2 out of 6. So yeah, not the best day at the office for the Ivorian. But yeah, you got, and then now let's compare it to Minteh when he came on. Not, yeah. I mean, successful dribbles 2 out of 3, accurate crosses 3 out of 9. So yeah, safe to say you did win this
There we
fixture,
go.
this round. But it's a long old season, and Hertzler, stick with our boy, my boy. I'm gonna keep backing him over Minteh. And then there's another one that we disagree with. Now we are talking about Ruta. You think is a huge downgrade over Pedro. I don't think he's that bad. I thought he was actually pretty. I wouldn't say good, might be stretching it. Pretty good, I think, is how he played on Sunday.
Yeah, I think you're throwing me under the bus a bit here. Huge downgrade. No, I think
Just trying to get a nibble.
it was good to see what Hertz are keeping the same sort of idea, but he's gone with Ruta to play the sort of João Pedro position, playing basically as an 8 when we have the ball, and basically as an 8 and an option when we have the ball. But Ruta was playing on the sort of right half space of it, and I thought he did okay, but it just wasn't as effective as João Pedro. Perhaps that's a lot to ask because he's just recently come in, but in the moments where he did also look effective, it just felt like he didn't have the ball under control. Everything was just it wasn't smooth. It was crunchy peanut butter, not smooth.
Crunchy peanut butter
That's the
rather than
worst
smooth
analogy.
peanut butter. Is that how we're going to start describing our players now?
Yeah.
João Pedro is that smooth, chocolatey peanut butter, and you're saying Ruta's clunky and nutty. I think there were phases in this. I thought in that first half, if it wasn't coming from Mitoma as like where we were going to create our chances and him being direct, I thought Ruta was then the second option of like I could see him like in those half spaces, like picking up pockets like in and around the edge of the box. Like, and he's always wanting it. That's the thing that I liked most about his performance on Sunday. He always wants it in those pockets. And then there were a couple times where he gave it to Adingra and Adingra just didn't do great with it. Or didn't there was one point where he played Adingra through and Adingra shot wide. And then it's like I think probably about 5 minutes later, he played Adingra through again and wanted the cutback, and he was quite annoyed that the cutback wasn't given. But there were times where, yeah, sure, he is. I do think he is a downgrade on João Pedro because I think João Pedro is an absolute magician with the ball, and as we've seen for the last 2 years. But I think there is still so much promise there, and I think he can be. I mean, I would like to see them. I wonder what they would be like together as well. I don't know that would even work, but I mean, just imagine that, like 2 great players on the ball. And then the other thing, you call him clunky, but this guy, he takes one bad touch to get it. The defender bites and tries tackling him. Then he somehow pulls out a chop out of nowhere. And the amount of time he did a chop to evade pressure and get past someone and win a foul. Yeah, I mean, that's promising at least.
Yeah, he's definitely a very good player. I just hope that it all starts coming together, and the link up with Adingra or Minteh is going to be on that side as well starts clicking.
Yeah, especially if he stays on this right half space that he
Mm.
was that he basically occupied a lot in Sunday's game against Nottingham Forest. Because like you said, everything you said about him was so right in terms of that's where he looked like he was operating the most. Whereas João Pedro was more of a roamer, like he would roam the whole front line. It looks like Ruta prefers to be like either just behind the striker and sometimes even ahead of Welbeck. A couple of times against Forest, Welbeck was even deeper than him, and then would play it to Ruta to then have some sort of link-up play. But yeah, that's where you do think there's slight differences in terms of how they play. But yeah, that is our beef. And is it now quashed? Bless, or we're going to carry on?
I'll say it's squashed now. Yeah,
We're now
we need to
civil.
move on.
Yeah, and move on we will. So after the break, after this ad break, we're going to be talking about segment 2, which will be talking about Hinshlewood playing centre mid. So, and we'll find out our thoughts on how he did there. This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day. And welcome back to the Daily Brighton podcast. I'm now here with my guy, Bless. We've kissed, we made up, and we're going to be talking about a guy that we've slated a lot on this podcast, but maybe this is a turn of a new leaf. He is now a centre mid where we've always said he should be playing. He is not a fullback, or at least he wasn't in Nottingham Forest game. But that is Jack Hinshlewood, a local boy, a club legend already, or his dad is at least. What did you make of his performance at centre mid, Bless?
Firstly, that was good to see him actually playing there. I thought he did okay. Now, whether or not I'm convinced for the future that's where he's going to be, I'm still a bit unsure, to be honest. But just based off that, just based off that performance, I thought he did okay, and obviously the goal was sort of the cherry on top as well from getting to actually start in his favourite position.
Yeah, because I don't reckon he would be getting that goal if he was playing as a fullback. So good to see him back on the score sheet. The thing is, I think he grew into the game. Like I thought he had a very quiet first 25 minutes where I literally was thinking, oh yeah, Jack Hinchwood's playing. I literally thought that in my head. I was like, as soon as I saw him on ball, I was like, bloody hell, is that the first time he's touched the ball? But I thought he had a solid game. Like as it went on, he clearly grew into the game. He had barely misplaced passes, was quite fierce in tackles as well. He was like probably going in for challenges, which is good to see. That's something I think he is deceptive with. Like he is actually quite strong in tackles and quite good at defending when he's in centre mid. Maybe not when he's 1v1 against like wingers. I don't think he's a fullback at all. I think centre mid is where he should play in the future. Do you think he's actually going to start there next game? Like, say, because obviously Whiffer's back. Do you see him playing next weekend against Chelsea?
So this is going to be a headache for Hertzler because I don't see him starting in centre midfield. I don't know if he'll stick with a Stupinian, but I don't see him starting against Chelsea just because that midfield battle with Enzo and Caicedo, you're going to need Baliba and Wafer in there, which is a little bit harsh because he got on the score sheet, but it's the reality of the game, I think.
Yeah, isn't it? That's so true. Like, I think he got the highest rated on these apps of any of our players. I think he got rated an 8 out of 10. But also, like, imagine you got to feel bad for him. I think he's also going to be dropped because I think Baliba and Matt Swiffer will play their next weekend against Chelsea exactly for the same reasons. Like, it needs that kind of brute force and maybe a bit more technical know-how, or I don't know, just something. Maybe a bit more experience, even though Beliebers has no experience either. But Matt Swiffer certainly does. So I can see him starting over Hinshlewood. And I just think that is so harsh to drop him after he just scored.
Do you not think he'll go back into left back?
No, I hope he doesn't go back to left back. I thought Estepinian did all right. I don't know about you.
I thought he did well.
That's what I've missed. Just give me a fullback. There was no... I'm trying to think of the game before I say a sweeping statement. I don't think he did anything wrong. And I think he actually handled Adingra and Gibbs-White fairly well. I don't think any of the goals were his fault.
Do you prefer like a more traditional like attacking fullback overlapping rather than like Hinshlewood's inside pocket inverted this, inverted that?
Yeah, I miss the old days, and when I say old days, I'm talking about 5 years ago, if that. I mean, 3 years ago, before Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta ruined the game I love and started putting centre backs at fullback and then putting him as like inverted fullbacks. As a fullback myself, and one that only prides himself on going forward, bombing it down the line, I'm offended that my position is being taken up by centre backs that are 6'4".
That
So
was a
yeah,
passionate rant. That.
yeah, I was on a rant, mate, on a rant. But yeah, I mean, I like the overlapping fullback just because the crosses they can get into the box, and then they also can play. No, and I think Estepinian is also able to play as like an inverted fullback. Like he's technically pretty sound. Um, so yeah, I like that. And then also if you've got the Veltman on the other side, who won't be doing the bombing forward runs, he can still be the inverted. That's where I think having maybe a difference in the fullbacks probably does help, or because otherwise it'll be too crowded in the middle, and then you need the width, especially where we operate. Where I think if you have Mitoma and Estepinian ganging up on a fullback, I think that's a threat for any team.
Yeah, and just back on Hinshlewood as well. So next week's Chelsea, and it'll probably be Nani Madueke in right wing, and that's just a strange matchup for Jack as well. It would be so harsh to see him dropped, but I think that's where it might have to that's what it might have to be.
Yeah, and we're not taking anything away from his performance today. We thought he was both pretty good today, and I've got some stats here of how good he was today. Not today,
We love
Sunday.
that.
Keep saying today. Uh, yeah, accurate passes. I mean, he only misplaced 4 passes out of 48, so there's that. And that basically he was, like I said, fierce in tackles, won several ground duels, tackles, recoveries for. I mean, it's a solid performance, and I thought he was actually the better of the two in terms of Belieber and him. So,
Yeah,
but
I'd
yeah,
agree with that as
after
well.
after the break, we're going to be talking about the red card controversy and Fabian Hertzler getting a red late on. I don't even know what he got the red for, to be honest, but I think chatting to the ref, and it seemed like the ref got his feelings hurt. But yeah, we're going to be talking about how that will affect us going forward. Do you have a story to tell that the world needs to hear? Have you struggled with reaching new audiences who are engaged with your story? It might be time for you to start a podcast. Let me tell you about a platform we use here at Global Sports Podcast Network. Zencastr makes it easy to start a high-quality podcast built for growth from day one. With 4K audio recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes ums, ahs, you knows, and 22 other speech patterns, Zencastr makes it easy to start a podcast that sounds great. Ready to tell your story? Check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And we are back for our final segment of this podcast to talk about red cards galore. The referee was dishing out these red cards. He was not having any hate towards him, was he? I mean, I'm pretty sure Hertzler just spoke, and so did Nuno Espirito Santo. They just ran to the touchline and went, and then he got a red card. What the hell? How's that going to affect us going forward, Bless?
To be fair, I'm all for it. To be honest, I want a manager who's passionate. I want a manager who's getting in and amongst it. Does that mean so there'll be a touchline ban?
Yeah, I
How many
think for the
games?
next 3 games. I
Oh,
think. I think it's for the next 3 games. If it's because it was a straight red, I think it applies the
that
same for
is yeah.
players as it does managers.
Yeah, I think going forward that could be an issue because what we know from Hertzer, he's very hands on and he's doing most of the things himself. So it'd be interesting who his number 2 is and who steps up and sort of coaches the team from
Mm.
the dugouts.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can appeal it, to be honest, because I thought it was so soft to give red card, and I
Yeah.
mean also to Nuno, because I didn't even see him shout or anything. I'm sure he was pretty livid about the Morgan Gibbs White red card, although he had no right to be because 2 yellows and the second challenge was absolutely vicious. So yeah, I think that will be, and like you say, he is hands-on. Hertzler, he is always on the touchline, like always speaking to the players. Like he's rarely in his seat, like being the laid back, sit down manager. So I think that could really affect us going forward in terms of just who's going to take those reins now,
Yeah,
especially when things go hard.
yeah. And what I was going to add as well is, so Nuno was sent off first. So I'm just thinking, what on earth is Hertzler actually get himself
Yeah.
sent off?
Imagine you're just there laughing at him.
I
I
have no
actually,
idea.
I want to know. I want an explanation from the Premier League. Why did he get sent off? I mean, it seemed like the biggest overreaction, and that really. What's your thoughts on? We're going to go deep here, but the overall standard of refereeing in the Premier League these days.
Oh, how long we
How long we
got?
got?
Oh, it's those words. Wow, so that one word consistency is just what the referees are lacking. I do feel for them at times, but
Mm,
they're not consistent with what they say they're trying to do or doing. And throughout the whole Premier League, if it depends on what ref you have, it will depend on the type of game it's going to be. Like obviously the other day, going a bit slightly off topic, but the other day, down at the Vitality, Anthony Taylor, what was it, like 16 yellow cards, and it's just
yeah.
like he's lost control of the game and he's started dishing out yellows really. But yeah, so it'd be good to see why he was sent off.
Mm.
What comments it was in particular.
The thing is, loads of managers beef the fourth official, and always you see them all the time nowadays, like shouting at the fourth official and the referees. And like you say, with consistency, it applies the same on the pitch as it should do off the pitch. There is like, why are they not allowed to do it, but other managers are allowed to scream at the ref and have
Yeah,
beef and just run to the touchline and always nag the fourth official? Like there is just no consistency.
yeah,
Why that was a red rather than so many others. But yeah, going forward, I hope it doesn't affect us. But and I don't know. Well, I guess we'll find out who his assistant is going forward, and he's gonna have to do that. Have you seen the thing that Mourinho used to do, or was it? I think it was Mourinho when he watched it in watched the game in a hotel room once. And had like a live feed and had to tell people,
oh yeah,
like, imagine if he does that. He's gonna be
yeah,
up in the stands with like one of those walkie-talkie things.
yeah. It depends. Sometimes I've seen some like suspensions being like you can't even go to the stadium, and then others you can sit in the director's box or you can sit
Yeah,
close in. So it depends which one he's got.
yeah. Well, there we go. That is our take on some red cards. Some interesting talk there. To round off this podcast about the red cards and the level of refereeing. We really went off topic there, but yeah. Join us next time to hear. Yeah, it'll be the Chelsea. Oh no, it'll be Wildcard Wednesday next.
Yeah, Wildcard Wednesday.
And then we'll be looking ahead to the Chelsea game, the game that so many of our fans can't wait for on the calendar, and we get to see the return, or not the return, but we get to see again. Kukukukurea, there's an Australia. Would love if we snap him. Love it. You're just gonna no comment that, bless.
Yeah, no, absolutely no comment. I can't believe what I've just heard.
On that note, on that great note, it's time to end. Thank you so much, guys, for listening again. And make sure you follow all our socials, keep tuning into our podcasts, and you get the latest Brighton news every day. Thank you, and peace out.
Thanks for listening.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.